Welcome and hello. This is a video tutorial covering HEC ResSim. In this lesson, I'm going to talk about the reservoir editor, specifically the pool geometry and pool elements. What I have on the screen here is a reservoir network. There's a reservoir here, plus a couple junctions and a couple reaches. To begin editing the reservoir and the pool geometry and its elements, we're going to select the pointer tool or the reservoir tool, right click and click Edit Reservoir Properties. This brings up a reservoir editor dialog box as we've seen before with the reservoir name listed at the top, and that can be changed for whichever reservoir we want to make edits to. With this simple network, we only have one reservoir and we have the default pool and dam elements already assigned. Keep in mind, I'm going to stay in the physical tab of the reservoir for this video and not the other tabs. When we click reservoir in the main panel, we see the release capacities of that reservoir as a function of elevation. This table is not editable. It's simply the result of outlet structures that have been added to the dam, which no outlet structures have been added to this dam yet. So there will be numbers in this table later on, but just imagine different elevations and then release flow rates that are controlled, uncontrolled, and then a total is the sum of those two releases. Now it's time to edit some pool elements. If we click on pool, we see a table defining the geometry of the reservoir pool with a column for elevation, storage, and acres listed in units of feet, acre feet, and acres, respectively. Uh, Linear interpolation is one option, and another is conic interpolation. I'm going to just stick with linear interpolation. And typically, you see me typing in numbers here in some of the other tutorials, and I could do that as well. But what I've done here is I've actually got a Excel file here with the data. So I'm just going to select the data that I've prepared before this video. And then I'm going to single left click in the first elevation cell and then Control V to paste those values into the table. When I click apply in the far bottom right corner of the dialog box, the system recognizes the geometry and then the plots for storage versus elevation and area versus elevation are shown on the right. If I was happening to use conic interpolation, I would have to click, I would have to select the first storage value and also provide an initial conic depth, but wouldn't need any additional storage values. I'm going to change it back to linear. A couple rules with this table are that there needs to be at least 2 rows, no duplicate rows are allowed, and values must increase with each row down. So we need increasing elevations, storages, and areas. Next, let's move on to the 2 different elements we can add to the reservoir pool. If we click on pool, we have the ability to add pool evaporation and add pool seepage. You can also get this same context menu by right-clicking on the pool in the reservoir tree. Let's start with clicking Add Pool Elevation. Here we have 2 options, monthly total evaporation and then down below evaporation time series. Let's go ahead and type in some monthly evaporation values, and I'm just going to make some numbers up here. All right. Those are values in inches, one for each month. And if I click apply, it's saved into the program. If I clicked on evaporation time series, this table of data is not used, but rather when we create an alternative, that's when we would define a time series to represent the evaporation. So I'll change it back to this. That's evaporation. We can't rename evaporation in the reservoir tree because there's only one evaporation, unlike some of the other elements. For instance, in the dam, there can be multiple outlet structures of the same type, in which case we may want to rename them to identify specifically which outlet structure is which. Right-click on pool and click Add Pool Seepage. This is water lost from the pool through the ground. We can type in a constant pool seepage here, or if there's variability based on the elevation, we can enter that data here by clicking the other radio button for seepage as a function of reservoir elevation. Again, we can type these numbers in if we want, but I have some data in Excel saved. Going to hit Control C to copy and Control V to paste. Click Apply, and now the seepage data is already saved into ResSim. So that is how to define the geometry of the reservoir pool, the interpolation type, as well as add reservoir pool elements, which are evaporation and seepage.